again. Thank you so much for listening to the second part of my message. What we can all do to play our part in changing from old energy darkness to new energy light that I spoke of in part 1. I know many of you feel powerless to react as perhaps you'd like, fearful of losing jobs, your homes, or coming into conflict with the authorities. For many others, losing benefits or your humble rented abode plays on your minds. Challenging the system therefore seems one stress too many. Do not worry, this is a daily scenario for millions of us. It is deliberately contrived precisely to leave us feeling disenfranchised, overwhelmed with financial obligations, and ultimately thinking we are powerless to create positive changes. For too long we have endured the negative denigration of our humanity by corrupted political elites in conjunction with criminal media organisations, despotic and fouled multinationals and banking terrorists. Single mothers are benefit cheats, unemployed are social sponges, workers are mercenaries, immigrants and refugees are stealing our jobs and destroying our way of life, homeless people are junkies and alcoholics, our young are feckless and lazy, our elderly are draining us with their pensions and health issues. Gay rights will contaminate our society. These are the lies we are peddled by a bought and paid media who seek to keep us worthless, trivialised, demonised and downtrodden. When was the last time you read of junior doctors saving lives rather than costing money? Or single mums raising young professionals, creative geniuses or scientific protégés? Virtually all our financial news, for example, comes from a single source, Reuters, owned by one Canadian family. And do you think Murdoch allows news in his vast media empire that conflicts with his personal ambition and that of the New World Order he serves? But it's all a lie. The truth is, every single mum should be assured of a living wage and decent accommodation. Is it not work bringing up a child? Of course it is. And a damn sight more valuable to society than paying an MP's wife to be his assistant or researcher. So if you're a single mum, celebrate the fact, join others in local groups, arrange social gatherings, get together and lobby for the changes to keep you out of penury and debt, and change the mainstream message that has blighted so many of your lives. Unemployment utterly devalues and demeans individuals and society as a whole. It is a war on those who, for many good reasons, find themselves outside of the labour marketplace. But it is an artificial construct. We require, for example, 1 million gardeners, from landscapers to permaculturists, vertical planters to organic growers, integrated fish food farmers and tree specialists. How many unemployed would love to undertake such work and thereby feed our population and green our cities and towns? But no, that is supposed to be the preserve of the biggest landowners and the supermarket chains who have hijacked, polluted and corrupted our entire system of food growing, production and distribution. You can't even get an allotment to tend and nurture anymore, can you? We desperately need 1 million empathic carers to sit with the elderly and lonely, to assist our more gravely disabled, to deliver home-cooked meals and to mentor with our troubled youth and prison population. That should be the aim of any so-called society, should it not? But those jobs are non-existent or considered to be minimum wage inconsequential occupations or the domain of hard-pressed and underfunded volunteer groups and small charitable organisations. Another 1 million creatives are out there in music, art, sculptures, crafts and so much more. But try going down to the job centre and telling them you're an artist. They won't be paying you for that. They'd rather you sat in a call centre with a headset on, endlessly phoning people at home on behalf of big business to further disrupt our lives. And 1 million plus builders to build homes and develop our inner cities and brownfield sites, instead of leaving them vacant, run down or undeveloped as the big supermarkets and millionaire developers sit on them waiting to profit with homes that 90% of us couldn't afford anyway. We are stymied by a bankrupt planning system that gives us brick-built boxes tied to an antiquated national grid to ensure we remain tied to the foreign utility corporations that have stolen our resources to sell back to us at ever increasing rates. We could be building homes for under £15,000 a go via prefab concrete, via hemp or via other natural resources, tied to an array of available off-grid energy resources. But where is the profit in that? These four sectors alone could be employing every able-bodied unemployed worker, but instead we choose to bully them into fast food outlets, shelf filling at supermarkets, or dispatching goods from warehouses the size of football stadiums for the likes of Sports Direct and Amazon. So we require a sea change in what we call work, and the freedom to enter these fields without hindrance or financial penalty. Every one of us should be on a proper minimum wage, and while we're at it, an agreed maximum wage too, that rewards excellence but does not furnish greed and self-glorification. Unemployment? No, just mismanagement and foul governance of the worst kind. So form collectives, self-build communities, land trusts, do guerrilla farming, plant seeds everywhere, lobby your MPs and harass your local authorities. It's our land, take it back. There is power in numbers. Take over derelict sites, occupy vast brownfield sites and start to support home growers, smallholders, farm markets and artisan shops. Grow your own food anywhere you can and start to wean yourselves off of supermarkets and factory farmed food, which should be an aberration to any so-called civilized society. But do it in groups. It's empowering and makes it much harder for the authorities to challenge. The true function of society is twisted and flawed when women aren't at the heart of all our enterprises and political bodies and government agencies. Equal pay must be enforced. Motherhood must be supported and properly remunerated. Do you think we'd be in a constant state of war, funding arms sales and developing even more frightening nuclear weaponry if women were represented equally across the political, legal and commercial landscape? It is a measure of any society's spiritual and human development by how it treats and responds to its female population. We have allowed media and advertising sexualisation of our youngest girls and accepted a virtual onslaught of dark pornography to be accessible to our young men, perverting both their natural desires and their respect for women. Women are for loving, not violent sexuality. They are for nurturing, not dominating, and they are for men's salvation, not their perversion. The single most powerful thing we can do is to respect and honour our women and enable their equality and voice in all things. Our youth represent far greater ideals and light-enhanced energetic ways than many of us can even conceive of. To deny them proper education, restrict them to narrow livelihoods and broken, no-go arenas of ghetto housing or impoverished neighbourhoods is simply a crime. So much creativity and possibility is being brutalised out of existence. Is that an enlightened and productive policy? And to our young people I say, get together in mutual support groups, protest peacefully, demonstrate intelligently and with integrity, graffiti with beauty and message, and don't pay those education fees. Remember, the people who ordained these debts all enjoyed either grant-assisted higher education or privileged private housing, private schooling, funded via stolen lands and resources, passed on generation to generation. They had a free ride to the best education and facilities at the time, before entering into pre-arranged vocations in the upper echelons of the civil service, law, banking, trade, politics and the arts. Many of you are getting a far lesser standard of education with no employment guarantee and a pile of debt to kickstart your career. So don't stand for this con. Don't pay wherever possible. If you have to, squirrel away £750 to go bankrupt when you leave uni with a further few grand of credit card debts and start afresh a year later. Far better than a decade plus of repayments before you can even consider getting a deposit together for a 30-year mortgage on a one-room box remote from the city centre you're expected to work in. Just remember, it is you and your peer group who will change the world, not those that so blindly claim governance over you. Do it with truth and honour. Next, our elderly. All of us should honour them. They have endured very different life paths, hardships and restrictions than the generations that followed. Many suffered war and violence and fought for the freedoms that we now seek to uphold. They have raised children and grandchildren and seen many pass before them. Many too have suffered illness, both physical and mental, due to the hardships of those times. They are therefore shaped by a different time and rhythm to us. They are not so easily removed from the familiarities they know, from the idea of traditional family life to a political and legal system that they are less inclined to challenge. So be patient with them, be available to them, be of service to them, and most of all, honour them. They will repay the kindness in many wonderful ways, and you will be enriched by their histories and their knowledge. And to the elderly I say this, I know some young people seem alien to you, but see beyond the appearance and you will find great hearts and inquiring minds, eager to learn and better themselves and the world they see around them. You are used to a form of governance and law and commerce that may well have impoverished you. That is not how it should be. And for those it has enriched in material terms, it has been at the expense of many others across the globe. That also is not how it should be, is it? Successive governments have betrayed you with disinformation and media lies. The internet has exposed this to our youth. They are so much better informed and therefore more driven to agitate for change. Don't deny them. Understand that they are concerned for the whole planet, not just the village or town they live in. This is how we achieve unity, by respect, honour, and most of all, love for each other, and by gentle but targeted and unified protest of that which seeks to destroy such good intent and pursuit of change. We have a government of mediocrity, populated by odious, self-seeking and power-addicted criminals. We, like many countries, are stuck in a left-right power dynamic, when what we plainly require is a form of governance that performs for all of us, one that is inclusive, not exclusive, enriching, not impoverishing, enlightening, not corrupting, and properly accessible to all. Not an Eton old boys clubs for Oxbridge and Old Etonians. Every few years we get kidded that there is a brave new leader in town that is going to change our lives for the better. I have lived through such political frauds, from Harold Wilson, who blinded us with empty-minded statistics, to Thatcher the milk snatcher, Blair the war criminal, and now Cameron and his we're all in it together BS, like a vacuous timeshare salesman. But they're all liars or deluded by their own visions of narrow political isms. Corbyn sings a nice tune but still heads up a narrow-minded party populated by many power-mad buffoons who supported Blair and Brown. They introduced the iniquitous common purpose which has so perverted our public agencies. As a result, we are further than ever from access to decision-making processes that affect all our lives. Worse still, we cannot seem to challenge their diktats. We have no real legal status, taxed and tithed by corporations, fined and asset stripped by local authorities. We have no access to legal aid, are denied proper representation and drained by court proceedings that can take years, meaning we are simply unable to contest such. Make no mistake, Corbyn may sound righteous, but his party just voted overwhelmingly to support the government's Snoopers Charter, whereby all our private communications and correspondence becomes government property, regardless of whether or not we are law-abiding. His party supported the war in Iraq, even if he didn't. That is not people politics. It is simply a depressing form of control that we should all be demonstrated against, however we can. Ultimately, we should seek to implement a new political situation that is empowered from the ground up and not the top down. This will require a new system with reformed institutions and upgraded public service agencies. What can you do? Whatever you can. Learn your common law rights. how to reject bailiffs, how to oppose a civil court proceedings, how to be a sentient human under God and not a straw man under the disgraceful illusion of maritime law. Don't pay their taxes, ignore their unlawful fines, don't speak to the police, learn your human rights, find out how to dismiss your mortgages and take possession of your homes. This information will empower your lives, and remember, the jails are full. If 1 million of us take this route, their system of trial and incarceration will collapse. Knowledge is power. There are 4 main issues that should be addressed. The first is the law. One thing we should all lobby for is the right to a jury any time we are ordered to a court hearing. That will free us all from every foul law, unfair statute and criminal corporate diktat. Want to take a pesticides manufacturer to court for killing bees? Simple. File a suit and demand a jury. Want to build an eco house that the planners are refusing? Then get to court before a jury of your peers. Think it's wrong to cut disability benefit? Let a jury decide. Don't want junk food outlets in your high street? Take them to court in a civil action with other like-minded concerned people and have a jury of local people rule on such. And we'd be permanently funding 250,000 cleared jurors for say 1 year paid employee as such. That could be paid for by a legal fund via various possible resources. This is empowerment when we the people decide what is right and wrong, not a single major bewigged judge and unelected magistrate who often work on behalf of the very entities we seek to challenge. It's no surprise that not a single political party, including the Greens, will even debate this issue, for if it were enacted, their very reason for being would be greatly diminished, which is why it is completely ignored by every one of them. Write to your MPs and ask them to declare their commitment to this inherent human right of trial by jury. The second is defence. Surely we operate a ministry of war, not defence. We cannot enter a golden age until the mass killing of people ceases. To that end, we must abolish weapons of mass destruction, germ and bio-warfare research, and wars against sovereign states that are not a direct threat to us. Instead, we should concentrate our defence forces around the UK in order to deter any thought of future invasion. In line with that, we should sign permanent non-aggression pacts, country by country, and give them huge economic and trading preferences over and above those that remain uncommitted to such peaceful charters. Finally, we should stop producing arms for other countries and return to non-lethal policing of our streets, and none of our troops should ever set foot on foreign soil again unless it is as part of a full United Nations force supported by a clear majority of nation states to defend a population from a clear aggression, as should have been the case in Rwanda, Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia and the Balkans in recent times. Do what you can to support peace and disarmament. It is time. Thirdly, land rights need to be reassigned so everyone has access to land and or property to ensure their rights of tenure. This must be accompanied by funding of all free energy initiatives to release us from the bondage of the big oil cartels and the energy giants who have clearly been suppressing such innovation for decades now. Remember, this planet is ours, all of us, every single person. We are stewards of an amazing and sentient planet. It is time to take it back from those who have polluted, poisoned, contaminated and plundered it to the point of our own extinction. Enough is enough. Demand these changes. Fourthly, we require a ministry of love to bring us all together. This is a glorious land populated by the most amazing and wonderful people, but we have been dominated by authority-run riot and depressed by governance that belongs to a bygone age. We need much healing, self-empowerment, positive group dynamics and an end to the divisive laws and power structures that have kept us divided and conquered. What would be more fitting than a ministry of love, populated by elected personnel of the highest spiritual, moral, principled and ethical calling as recognised by their peers? This is the cornerstone of a truly enlightened nation, so please support and promote it if it resonates with you. Finally, we should all recognise that we have a role to play, no matter where we are placed. For some it may just be remaining a loving parent and friend, and perhaps sending the odd letter and signing the odd petition or two. We can't all be in the front line of this spiritual evolution, but just by sending out your positive energy to the greater consciousness, never doubt that you are playing your part. This is a consciousness war, and the quicker we aggregate our light, the quicker we will push the darkness into ever diminishing places. Soon they will have no real places of power left to them. Believe. You are all angels cloaked in flesh, warriors fueled by light, and great beings of majesty and nobility, powered by love. Alone we are of good intent, but together we are an unstoppable force that will change the world. Be the change. We are one.